So you're out shooting for the day and you realize halfway through that some of your photographs are overexposed. Don't delete them, you can save them. I'll show you how. Roll that intro. Hi guys, Jonathan from iShoot Images. So good to see all of your wonderful smiling faces again from wherever you happen to be in the world, and thank you for following this channel. Now, if you've watched my previous video, you would have seen the type of photographs that I did with Chey, or Tits for Tats, as she's known on Instagram. Make sure you like her account, give her a follow, she's an amazing model. Now, we've taken a few photographs looking down the alleyway, and on one side of the camera, I noticed that a building was totally blown out, well overexposed, and I thought, damn, I wish I'd picked up on that during the shoot. But that's okay because I can save that. It's very easy and I'll talk you through it. Now, as you can see here, this is just a raw file. The buildings on the right-hand side are completely blown out and overexposed because I was exposing for Chey and I had my flash just off to the side. You can even see the light stand just over here in the corner, just in shot there. But I can't use this photograph as it is, so I need to take down that exposure. Now, at first glance, you might look at this photograph and go, damn, it's overexposed, I can't use it. But that's the beautiful thing about shooting in RAW. And if you're a photographer, whether you're a professional, an amateur, or just getting into photography, you must shoot in RAW. If you shoot in JPEG, you have not got the options available to you to develop that RAW file. Think of it as a digital negative. If you used to shoot on film all those years ago, you got a negative, you could work on that. Well, shooting in RAW is exactly the same thing. You are working with a digital negative. In fact, that's also what DNG stands for, if you've ever seen that file extension before. So shooting in RAW, you can develop this photograph in many different ways, including taking down the exposure. So let me show you how it's done. So the first thing I do, bring it into Lightroom, bring it into your develop area after you've set everything, and this is purely just the raw file. The first thing I then do is I go down and I just select the lens profile. In this particular instance, I shot with my Canon. I use my 24 to 105mm lens. So there you go, Lightroom has recognized those profiles. So that's fantastic. Now the next thing I want to do before anything else is done is I want to see what I can do with this area over here, take away that overexposed area. So I'm going to come here to my shadows and I'm going to turn them right down. And you can already see we've got a bit of detail in there already. The next thing I'm going to do is really bring up my shadows. Now that looks pretty flat and rather awful, and you might think to yourself, what are you doing? But then if we go up here to exposure, I'm just going to just tab this down bit by bit by bit by bit. And look at that, the detail is starting to come back. So as you can see, I've gone down by around a stop. I might go down a fraction more. Yeah, there you go. So just down by 1.2 stops there. And we can really see here that the detail in the brickwork is starting to come back. It's still overexposed, but we can work on that. It's a lot better than what it was before. Now, if you press your / button, just press that, so there you go, before and after. That was very overexposed. So you can see that just by making one or two minor tweaks, we've already made that image usable. We've basically salvaged it. But as I said, this area here is still a little bit overexposed for my liking. So I'm going to come up over here to my local adjustment areas, and I'm going to click on the brush tool up here, the adjustment brush. Click on that, and I'm going to say new brush. That's probably a decent size, although I might make it a little bit bigger just for now, just so we can see it. I'll take the exposure down by about half a stop, just so I can see it. I can always change the exposure back a little bit later. And now I just start to paint in the area that I want to take down. Once again, before and after. Now, if I jump back over here to exposure and bring that right down, now this obviously isn't going to be a finished result, but you can see what I've done. I've taken the exposure down of that area over there. Now that's obviously far too bright, so I'm going to take it back up over here to around negative 50, so half a stop. That's not so bad. I might also just move this around a little bit. There we are, just so it's out of the sky. I don't want the sky to be affected. I'm doing this roughly, by the way. Now I think the background is still a little bit too bright, so I'm going to come over here, I'm going to select another new brush, if you double click on Effect, that resets everything to 0. I'll resize my brush to one a little bit smaller, and I'll come down here by around -3. And I'll just start painting the detail in over here. Now I want to make sure I'm not going over the sky too much, otherwise you're going to see all these different dark blue patches in the sky, which I do not want. And there we are, so we can definitely see now that that is really starting to come down. I also might just take it over here and just do a small little patch on the top of the roof line as well. Once we are happy with that, we click on Close, and once again if you hit your / button before and after, wow, look at that difference. That is incredible. Now the other thing I like to do, especially when I'm shooting outdoors and it's a nice bright sunny day, come back into your local adjustments again and click on your graduating tool brush over here up the top, the graduated filter. Once again, double click on Effect so that everything is reset to 0, and I'm going to draw in my gradient tool first just to get the size of it that I want. And now I'll come over here and I'll just slowly take my exposure down. Now look at that, beautiful rich colors in the sky. That's looking really good. I think -6 is really good there. So I'll hit return just to lock that in, hit close, and let's look at the before and after once again. Before and after. Before and after. And once again guys, that's hitting the / key on your keyboard. If you hit Y on your keyboard, there you go, you can see them side by side. Before is on the left and after is on the right. What a difference that is. So as you can see, we've saved this image from one that was half overexposed to a photograph which is now really well balanced either side of those buildings. Now I'm almost done, but not quite. I want to get rid of this keystone effect where the buildings are pointing up toward the sky rather than being straight. So let's straighten those up. I'll show you how to do that, and then I'll bring it into Photoshop for later editing. So I'm going to come down here to transform. I'm going to click the constraint crop box, hit guided, and then I'm going to draw in my line from the building. So there you go, there's the edge of the building over there, line number 1, and I might take it to the window frame over here, line number 2. Now that's close enough. And bang, look at that. That's fantastic. So once again, I'll hit the Y key, before and after. And there you go, that's my process of how I can bring a photograph which is half overexposed, or in some cases maybe fully overexposed, down to the correct exposure where I can now really work on it later on in Photoshop. That's how I do it, that's how a lot of professionals do it, and that's exactly how you can do it too. Of course, the way to avoid doing this is when you're on location, make sure that you're getting the correct exposures while you're actually out there on set, on location, on your shoot. Now I could have underexposed for this particular one, but I was making sure that I had Chey perfectly exposed for this particular photograph. Well, okay, I didn't look at the buildings, but I was still making sure that my model was perfectly exposed. You can always underexpose a photograph and then lift the brightness out later on, and that will actually help to stop this process of bringing down overexposed photographs. If it's too far overexposed, you're going to lose the detail. You've only got a certain amount of dynamic range in your camera, depending on what type of camera model you've got. Once that's gone, if there's no information there, it's gone. I'm lucky in this case, I could bring it back, but there are cases where if it's too far overexposed, you will not be able to bring the detail back. Well, there you go guys, I hope that's been very helpful to you. So make sure that when you're on location, do not delete any photographs at all. If they're too dark, if they're too bright, because bringing them into Lightroom to take down those highlights or boost those shadows can really save a photograph. Just try, but don't delete anything in your camera. Well, there you go guys, I hope you found this tutorial useful. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, smash or kick or punch, whatever you want to do with that little notification bell. Just make sure you click it so you're notified every single time I make one of these videos. If you haven't seen the video of me and Chey from a few days ago, make sure you go ahead and watch that. Not only is she a fantastic model, but we were in a great location as you've seen in this video, and I've got all the camera settings that I used for that shoot as well. So until next time guys, have a fantastic weekend and I'll see you next time. Out! You know, it's strange, I say to you all good morning or have a great weekend, and chances are you're probably watching this on a Wednesday or at midnight or at lunchtime. never during the actual time I'm assuming you're going to be watching that. I suppose it's just something to get used to with YouTube.